Coming up on Bobcat Breakdown, the Quinnipiac men's and women's ice hockey teams started up their seasons. Plus, we have men's soccer forward Eamon Whalen in studio, and of course, plenty more. This is Bobcat Breakdown. Welcome to Bobcat Breakdown. We are here on this cool Tuesday night with Dylan Fearon and Aaron Robinson. How you boys doing?
Doing great, Maya. How about yourself?
Good.
You know, apparently some Twitter poll by Mr. Moy Hirschgordon says that Aaron is going to beat me down tonight, so I got to bring it for sure.
Hey, man. Let's bring it. Get it on. Get on, Dylan.
Do it.
All right. The weather here has gotten colder, and you know what that means. Hockey season. The women's ice hockey team had back-to-back games in an even colder place, Maine. This Friday, the Bobcats took down the Black Bears 2-1, but Maine fought back the next day, winning 4-2. Guys, what are your takeaways from the first two games? Aaron, we'll start with you.
Well, for me, I would say, in both games, even though they won the first game 2-1, losing the second game 4-2, in both games they gave up goals in the first period, so they're playing from behind, early on in the game. I think this is obviously not a very good formula for winning, so they got to start playing defense early from the start and trying to get some goals early in the first period so they can start their game, ahead as opposed to behind. Secondly, they were 1 for 7 on the power play in the two games combined. So when you think about, playing with an advantage, playing 1 for 7 is not a good percentage when you're playing with a man up. So I think from here on out, they definitely need to start getting more production on the power play and just trying to start attacking early on as opposed to trying to play from behind.
We'll start with the first game. I think number one, they played with a very good pace. That's what Cassandra Turner said right after the game. Good pace, a gritty third period to get a W on the road. And it's the first game of the season, so players are going to be rusty. They've lost a lot of players from a year ago from a team that just missed out on the NCAA tournament. No Sydney Rossman, no Emma Greco, Taryn Baumgart on defense, and no Emma Woods or Megan Turner or Danielle Marmer on the attack. So it's a lot of newcomers. They got the rust out of the way. They go on the road and get a win. Then the second game they lose, but just so you guys know, with backup goaltender Allison Small played the first 23 minutes, allowed 2 goals to go down 2-0. So just like you said, Aaron, playing from behind. Then Abby Ives, the starter, comes in, and it's even throughout the rest of the game. So they dropped the second game. Now this is the important part. Maine is not good. Maine is trash in women's ice hockey. Never made the NCAA tournament. They've only won 10 games in the last 3 years, each of the last 3 years. And so they're not a very good ice hockey team. So I expected Quinnipiac to win both of those games. Granted, Allison Small did play the first 23 minutes of that second game, but I thought the pace was good in the opener. And to go on the road, take a long trip to Maine and get a W, they weren't satisfied, I'm sure, because they wanted to sweep, but we'll take one, I guess.
All right, Dylan, we're going to go back to you. Who will be this year's breakout player?
This is interesting because I'm going with Melissa Samoskevich. And that might be a surprise to some because she's arguably one of the top 2 players on the team, maybe even the best player on the team, along with TTC and Ferrano. But in terms of production, I'm going to say she will break out this year because last year, 32 points, freshman year, 29 points. She's on pace to go 40, maybe even 45 this season. TTC and Ferrano 2 years ago had 52 points, so I don't think it's out of the question to ask her to score 40 points with Emma Woods, Danielle Marmer, Megan Turner, the names I mentioned, not on the team anymore. So she will be asked to do a little bit more. I also think Sarah Eve Katu-Godbout will do well this season. Abby Cleary, Katie Tavens of the world will break out this year, but especially Samoskevich production-wise.
Good point, Dylan, but I got to go with Sarah Eve Katu-Godbout.
Sure.
She started the season off with, just fire. Even in the scrimmage, she scored 2 goals. She's the team leader in points. She's the team leader in assists, and she's tied for the team lead in goals. Like I said, she scored 2 goals in the scrimmage. She had a goal this weekend at Maine and an assist. So from the sophomore, last year as a freshman, she only had 2 goals for the whole season,
right.
And she had 1 assist, and they both came in the Brown game. So this year, for her to get off to a good start, her sophomore year, getting 2 goals early at Maine, I think it's going to be a great year for her.
Sure. Plus, she's on that front line now with Samoskevich and Cianfrano, and defenders are going to be focusing on them. So that's going to leave Katu-Godbout open 4 more goals, 4 more assists, and to facilitate with Cianfrano and Samoskevich, she for sure will produce more than last year. Absolutely.
Okay. Now back to you. How will Abby Ives fill the shoes of Sydney Rossman?
Well, Ives, for sure, definitely has some big shoes to fill. Trying to fill the shoes of Sidney Rossman, who, last year was the best goaltender in the ECAC. For the past 2 years, actually been the best goalie in the ECAC. Last year posted a 1.45 goals allowed average per game, which was the best in the ECAC. She was the ECAC goalie of the year her junior year. So those are already some big shoes to fill for a player who only appeared in 6 games last season. But she did start 3 games, and in her short 6-game stint, she only allowed a 0.23 goals allowed average per game, which is pretty good. Also posted a .983 save percentage in these 6 games. So obviously it was a short serving size, but for that short serving size, she definitely produced. And I think she did a great job, filling in for Rossman. And then coming on this year, obviously the first game they won, we're able to get a 2-1 win. So I think she's off to a good start so far.
So you would say yes, she can fill those shoes.
Oh, I think it's going to be tough, but hey, like I said, she's a sophomore. She's still young, so I think I'm definitely going to give the young girl a chance.
My thing is, you mentioned Rossman was fantastic her junior year, and you're absolutely right. One of the best goalies in the nation, the ECAC, you're absolutely right. But last year, she kind of fell off a little bit. 0.9 goals against average her junior year, 1.45 her senior year with all of the defensemen back, at least the top ones, right?
Yeah.
So Abby Ives in the short serving size that you mentioned, 9.83 goals against average. Slightly better than Rossman. Obviously less games, maybe weaker opponents. For sure, I'll give that all to you. But I think maybe not accolades-wise this season, but going through her career, junior, senior year, absolutely. And we talked about this a couple of years ago when Chelsea Layden had a fantastic junior and senior year. We thought, how is Sidney Rossman going to fill the shoes of Chelsea Layden? And what happened? She had a fantastic junior year, like Aaron mentioned. So I think the same thing is going to happen. Maybe Abby Ives isn't tremendous this season, but junior year, senior year, she will be fine. And she's 5'9", she's long, she's tall, she takes up a lot of the net as opposed to Rossman, who's 5'5". I think Abby Ives will be just fine this year.
Okay. Quinnipiac men's hockey had a tough exhibition battle this Sunday against the St. Mary's Huskies. As the game went back and forth between the two teams, the Bobcats came on top with the win 3-2. Freshman goalie Keith Petrozzulli had 15 saves in his first game, but Andrew Shortridge is the returning starter. Who do you guys think should be the starting goalie? We'll start with you, Dylan.
And this might be the first time we argue tonight. I will go with Petrozelli eventually. Eventually. I think what they're going to do is what Rand Pecknold will do is to split this weekend. They've got BC on the road and they've got Boston U at home. So I think they're going to start Petrozelli, a freshman who's unbelievable with a tremendous upside, 3rd-round pick this year by the Red Wings. They'll start him at BC. He's a Massachusetts kid. Boston College is 13th in the country. Quinnipiac is 14th, so it's a pretty even matchup. I start Petrozelli on Friday, and then the Sunday matchup at home against Boston U, the second best team in the entire nation. I start Shortridge, who has all the experience, who's played at home in a big atmosphere, and has played Boston U before and played okay. So I go with the sophomore with all the experience, who's played in hero hats, who's played against BU, who's played in conference tournaments, and then give Petrozelli that start on Friday, where he's probably a little more comfortable, and he's at home. He's from Massachusetts, so he's a little more comfortable, get the family there, and support him. So I think Petrozelli Friday and Shortridge Sunday, and then whoever is better throughout the course of the season, that's who gets the starts later on in the year. Last year was Chris Stroll and Andrew Shortridge who split the time, and Shortridge took over towards the end of the year, so it's going to be the same exact thing. But Rand Pecknold, and we know this, especially MJ Baird knows this, will not tip his hand at all and keep everything towards the vest. He's not going to tell us anything soon.
Well, Dylan, I'm going to have to disagree with you there. I think you got to go with Andrew Shortridge from the jump. I think this guy's a sophomore. He has the experience. He's the older player. Last year, he played in a ton of games last year. And I think Petrozelli has yet to play a Division I college hockey game, So
Correct.
I think coming into a game with BU and BC this weekend, huge weekend, you've got to start the sophomore. He has experience. Also, let me remind you that Shortridge last year became the 4th freshman in program history to start a postseason game. The first to actually get a win in the postseason since 2006. So, the kid's off to a great start. We've had some great goalies here in the past. Michael Gardick, he didn't get a win in his freshman postseason, So I think this guy, Shortridge, just came on early and has proven himself to be just one of the future great goalies at Quinnipiac. I think you got to give him this edge from the start.
Shortridge is no slouch. Don't get me wrong. He's very good. And he won the starting job last year against the solid Chris Stroll. So I'm no disrespect to Shortridge. But Petrozelli is a 3rd-round pick by the Red Wings, 88th overall. And he kind of slipped in that draft. He could have been a 2nd rounder, early 3rd rounder. He went late 3rd. I think you've got to give him a shot. I mean, if he's better, then he's better. Don't you go with whoever's best?
Man, I think that's what I think. I think Shortridge is best. I think you got to go with the older dude, man. I think when you look at college hockey, I think experience is everything. We see Michael Gardick, who played 4 years here, had a great career, led him to a Final Four in his senior year. That was because he got the reps in from earlier in his career. Shortridge has gotten the reps his freshman year. I think he deserves to get the reps, at least to start. You know, if you put Shortridge out there and you let him play and he starts giving up goals and not playing well, then you go with Petrozelli afterwards. You know, he is a freshman, so I think Peckno's got to go with Shortridge to start, man. I think it's only right.
I don't know. If Petrozelli's better, I got to go with him. I mean, I don't know. If he's better, he's better. And right now, I think he's probably better than Shortridge. You mentioned the experience, but it's not like he's a senior and Petrozelli's a freshman. This guy's only a sophomore, and he got maybe 2/3 of the reps last year. So let's not act like he's a senior captain who's been to a Frozen Four. This guy wasn't even in an NCAA tournament. Now, yes, he's more experienced, but it's not like he has played in all these amazing games.
How important is a strong start against two Hockey East teams, Boston College and BU? Aaron, your turn.
Well, I think, it's immensely important that they come out of this weekend with at least one win. You know, Hockey East has been perennially, if not the best conference in college hockey, definitely one of the best teams in college hockey. Last season they had 4 teams in the NCAA tournament, which is 25% of the field. The year before that they got 6 teams in, which is almost 40% of the field. The year before that, Providence won the championship. So you got the past 3 years, I mean, they've been the class of college hockey. So I think if you can start off the weekend with 2 wins against BU and BC, or at least 1 win and maybe a tie, then you're definitely starting your season off on a good note. You know, I think anytime you get out of conference wins, they bode well for the strength of schedule. So I think obviously they got to get a good start this weekend versus these 2 really good teams.
Yeah, I'm with you. It's always imperative to get your season started on a hot note, and playing 2 top 15 teams, Quinnipiac has that opportunity. Now, the first thing is bragging rights. You're playing 2 Hockey East teams who don't like each other. Quinnipiac's in the ECAC. I'm sure the ECAC thinks they're the best conference in college hockey, and the Hockey East thinks they're the best conference. So playing 2 Hockey East teams early, they can go back and forth a little bit and get some bragging rights. The second thing is, as we already said, getting the season off to the right start. It's imperative that they at least get 1 win out of these 2. And it'll be interesting to see which goaltender gets most of the minutes in the game that they win, if they win a game. And the last thing is, it's important for pairwise rankings, which are the rankings that pretty much tell you who's going to the NCAA tournament. So playing 2 top 15 teams, Quinnipiac has an extremely large opportunity to defeat a couple of good teams, especially at home against the second best team in the country. So they can get at least 1 win, maybe even 2, or let's say a tie on the road against BC, then things will be good for Quinnipiac and they'll be in good shape heading forward.
Thanks, guys. Good stuff. In a little bit, we will get to hear from Quinnipiac's very own men's soccer forward, Eamon Whaling. Don't go anywhere. We will be right back.
On #that, we talk about some fun events around Quinnipiac's campus.
And we talk about some weird news that's been discussed around Twitter.
All that and more, we are your source for Quinnipiac's entertainment news.
Whether you're on the quad,
in your room,
or heading to class,
tune in to Q30 News.
for stories by student journalists you can trust.
we are covering the latest here on campus and in surrounding areas.
Get the news you need to know every Wednesday night.
Bobcat Breakdown, presented by the Quinnipiac Bobcat Sports Network.
We are your source for debate.
Did they make the playoffs last year, Tom Jenkins?
When it clicks, it clicks.
We dissect Quinnipiac athletics on a scale you've never seen before.
With Tobia, it almost looks like she's reaching a little bit.
Plus, we bring in the biggest names surrounding college sports.
We are live here at the Times Union Center with Jay Billis.
And of course, some comedy.
But you can only have so much arena food.
I think you're crazy. Bobcat Breakdown.
Tuesdays at 9:30.
Now moving on to men's soccer. As the Bobcats made the long drive up to Niagara, Quinnipiac senior captains Mac Rothenbeecher and James Doig scored for the Bobcats, winning 2-0. Now, Q30 Sports' Doug Kahn is here with men's soccer forward Eamon Whelan. Guys, what's going on?
Thanks, Maya. Eamon, thanks for joining us.
Anytime.
So, first of all, you guys had a tough out-of-conference schedule. What does that do coming into the season, playing such a tough out-of-conference schedule?
I mean, I think it's a wake-up call for all of us. But also, while we didn't get the results we wanted, it shows what we need to work on. But also, I think there's stuff that we can take out that's good also from it. It's not like, besides Boston College, we didn't get killed or like outscored by that much in any of the games. So I think while it's a wake-up call, I think we can learn from a lot bringing it into MAC play.
Yeah, good to know. You guys recently had a big goal-scoring drought, but you scored 2 in your past game over Niagara. Does that like kind of lift the monkey off your back, so to say?
I mean, everybody wants to score goals, everybody wants to win, but sports, maybe the ball doesn't bounce the way you want. So I think getting these first 2 goals at Niagara, I think it's a big step for us, and it gives confidence going into Ryder tomorrow.
So this season, you guys came into the preseason as the MAC favorites. Does that like put some pressure on you, and how do you guys take that pressure if it does?
Pressure, I think good pressure, not too much added pressure, but I think that we know we have a target on our back and people want to beat us. So going into each game, we got to know that we have to bring our A game and pick up as many points as we can.
So coming up tomorrow, you have a huge matchup against Ryder in the MAC a championship rematch of the MAC. What do you guys think about going into this
obviously,
game?
none of us have forgotten about last year, but going in, we got to realize it's just another regular season game. We can't put too much hype on it. So going in, we know it's obviously a big opponent against Ryder, but our main objective is to pick up the 3 points, regardless of who we're playing.
And lastly, what's different for you year 2 from year 1?
Obviously, experience. I think that I've grown, not that the players last year I wasn't tight-knit with, but obviously relationships have grown, and confidence and stuff like that. But
Eamon, thanks for joining us.
Thank you.
Maya, back to you.
Thanks, Doug. So Dylan, was the Niagara spark a big thing for the team?
It absolutely sparked them. I think it couldn't have gone better for Quinnipiac this past weekend. And I think Eamon would agree with me. They played 3 home games recently, New Hampshire, Fordham, and Fairfield, and all lost and didn't score. So what better way to come off of that than to take a long bus ride with the team, be alone, be away from everyone critiquing them like us, just head on a 7-8 hour bus ride against Niagara, a team that that beat Quinnipiac last year, score not just 1, but 2 goals during the game, get a clean sheet, and get the 3 points to get back to 1-1 in the MAC. It could not have gone any better for Quinnipiac this weekend. I think Eamon, Eric DeCosta, and all of them would agree with me when I say that. Max Rothenbeecher scores for the first time this year. James Doig gets a goal, and they're both fantastic goals, and especially with James Doig being a 5th-year captain who had been benched on multiple occasions in second halves of games. Getting a goal, playing well, it could not have gone better for them. An absolute spark.
You know what? I think you made some good points, Dylan, but I'm going to have to disagree. I'm going to have to say no. When you look at the Niagara team that they just played, they were coming in at 1-6-1. So it wasn't like they beat, one of the better teams.
But so was Quinnipiac, no?
They were, but you got to look at it from a perspective of Quinnipiac was also picked as one of the top teams in the MAC coming in, so they're supposed to win that game coming in. If you ask me, then you look at the fact that they've got talk about a spark, so we're thinking they're gonna get some wins rolling. You got a tough schedule. You got on the road at Manhattan. They've got on the road at Ryder, which are only 2 teams in the league right now that are undefeated. Both of them sitting at 2-0. You've also got a home game against Canisius, who's 1-1, and a home game against Iona. So I think both of those games will be tough games to win. And a team that's been struggling to score goals, I think it's going to be tough for them to, just go from not scoring goals to just all of a sudden they're going to get a flurry of goals coming in. I don't know. It's going to be tough, but
let me pose this to you, Aaron. You're an athlete. You know how mental sports can be. You're a basketball player. Just seeing the ball go in the hoop can spark a nice run for you. Get the ball in a couple times in a row and just get you on a tear. Quinnipiac had only had 2 goals in the first 8 games. Seeing the ball go in twice against Niagara on the road, how does that not spark you and get the confidence up and just a mental boost, no?
I mean, like you said, I am an athlete, and I've had seasons where we have been losing. We'll beat a team by 20 or 30, and next game we play, we lose again. And it's like, I think it has to do with the teams you're playing first of all, and then you as a team making sure that you are taking care of business. And I don't know if these guys are going to be able to score enough goals going forward. I hope so, but I haven't seen it yet. So.
Okay.
All right, Aaron, we're going to start with you. What is the reason for no goals being scored?
Well, when you talk about no goals being scored, I think it has a lot to do with the fact that the team gives up a lot of goals early in the game. In every single game that they have lost or tied this season, they've given up a goal in the first half. So when you're playing from behind, you're automatically on the defensive. It's like boxing. Floyd Mayweather, we know he's a defensive fighter.
Sure.
So how many times have you seen Floyd Mayweather knock somebody out?
Rare occasion.
Rarely. Same thing with sports. So if you're playing from a defensive all the time, you're not going to be able to score many points, not going to be able to get many wins because you're always on the defensive. You're always playing from behind the eight ball. So I think the reason that they have been having trouble scoring goals is because of the fact that they've been playing from behind. The two games, or the last two games that they've won, they've scored early, and I think those were the reasons why they've been successful.
I don't think that's it. I don't think that's it at all. The first reason that they were unable to score a lot of goals in the first 8 games was, one, they had a tremendously hard out-of-conference schedule. They played ranked team after ranked team. Boston College, UConn, both on the road, New Hampshire at home, UMass Lowell on the road. The list goes on to the hard teams they played in the non-conference slate. So that's one thing, hard opponents. 2, Rashawn Daly just hasn't been himself this year. Played terrific his freshman year, had a few goals last year, but hasn't done well with the ball this year. He gets the ball, he doesn't beat his man, he doesn't get the great first touch onto the ball. Eric DeCosta says it's kind of like basketball, where the point guard throws it into the center and the center can't catch it. It's kind of like Rashawn Daly, doesn't get the great first touch. The second thing was, we just talked to Eamon Whalen. He was out with a groin injury for an extended period of time. So that's the second reason. He was an all-MAC rookie last year, one of the best freshmen in the MAC, one of the top freshmen in the entire country, and he missed games. That's another reason. You put all that together, and it's not a big shock that they haven't scored a lot of goals. It's not them giving up an early lead and not being able to score. It's the combination of the schedule and everything else I just said with Eamon Whalen and Rashawn Daly.
Up next, we have the game of the week. Quinnipiac Field Hockey takes on Providence this Friday. Who will the guys pick to win? Find out that and more when we come back after this break.
Whether you're on the quad,
In your room.
Or heading to class.
tune in to Q30 News.
For stories by student journalists you can trust.
We are covering the latest here on campus and in surrounding areas.
Get the news you need to know every Wednesday night.
Good morning and welcome to the Morning After.
Welcome back to Bobcat Breakdown. As Quinnipiac Field Hockey had 2 rough losses this past weekend, their games continue to get harder. This upcoming week, the Bobcats have great competition against the Providence Fairs. This will definitely be a game to keep your eye out for. Guys, who will you take this big-time matchup?
I'm taking Providence. For sure Providence. The first thing is that Quinnipiac beat Providence last year in overtime. That was in a neutral site, being at Yale, Quinnipiac's home field, if you want to call it, but it was neutral in my eyes. The second thing is Providence is pretty good this year. 5-2 at home, the game's in Rhode Island. Providence beat Villanova 4-1 this year. They only lost to UConn, one of the best teams in the country, 2-0. Quinnipiac lost to Villanova. It just all signs lead to Providence in this game, and Quinnipiac's not that good on the road, only 1-4. So, if I'm a betting man, I'm taking Providence by about 2 goals.
You know what, Dylan? I'm actually surprised. We're actually going to agree on this point. You know,
For once, man.
Hey, I'm also going to take Providence. You know, you touched on it. Providence is 5-2 at home. Quinnipiac just 1-4 record on the road. Providence is sitting at 7-4 right now. Winners of their last 3 games. Quinnipiac is coming losing 3 of their last games. So I think it's just, you know, one team is trending up and one team is trending down. So I think this game I'm going to have to go with Providence as well.
Yeah. I'd say 3-1.
Okay. Everyone knows who the hockey teams and basketball teams here are at Quinnipiac. But how about the fall teams? Q30's Brian Schwartz has more.
Hey, thanks, guys. I'm Brian Schwartz out on the Quinnipiac University quad asking students about the fall sports teams. Let's check it out. Who's the field hockey head coach?
I have no idea.
You know they're in the Big East, right?
Yes.
Pretty legit.
Yeah.
And you don't know the head coach.
No.
Who's Becca Main?
The rugby coach.
No.
No.
Becca Main.
No idea.
Who is Becky Carlson?
I don't know.
Who's Becky Carlson?
Is she on the women's hockey team? Right.
She's not.
No, she's women's soccer.
No. How about Becky Carlson?
Who?
Do you know who Dave Clark is?
No.
Do you know who Eric DeCosta is?
No idea.
Who's John O'Connor?
Honestly, the name's familiar, but cross?
Who's the women's golf coach?
No idea.
That's John O'Connor.
I mean, are they sports people? Basketball?
No.
Hockey.
No. Do you know anything about Quinnipiac fall sports?
Not one bit.
Do you know anything about Quinnipiac fall sports? So you know nothing about fall sports?
Clearly not.
All right, so obviously, as you can see, these teams are very underappreciated on this campus. Dylan and Aaron, what do you guys think about this?
So, Dylan, what do you think about the fall team sports being underappreciated?
I think what we have to all understand is there's a difference between the school underappreciating the teams and the students and the fans underappreciating the teams. The school clearly appreciates them and values them. Do you see the new stadiums? They're beautiful. Men's soccer, women's soccer, field hockey, and rugby's got a brand new facility with the regulation size lines and everything. So the school and Greg Amodio clearly value those teams and appreciate them. But where it comes to play is the students and the fans do not appreciate these teams. Rugby has won a couple national championships. Men's soccer is always on the brink of making the NCAA tournament. Field hockey's in the Big East. Women's soccer is really good. The list goes on. Volleyball was in the MAC championship game last year. So the fall sports teams are good, but no one's going to the games, and that's part of my final roar, so I'll reserve some of the stuff. But the fans need to start showing up to these beautiful facilities and watch these teams because they're good, and they're a lot better than maybe some of the winter sports teams and spring sports teams. The fall sports teams deserve a lot more attention from the students, but the school appreciates them.
Like you said, Dylan, I don't think this is necessarily a Quinnipiac problem. It's my opinion that I think this is more of a societal problem. I think like, if you look at the world today, like a lot of people watch football, watch basketball, they watch hockey, but you don't see a lot of people tuning into a field hockey game or like, you don't even see them on TV. Like, do they even have field hockey on TV? I haven't seen it. Like, so if you're a student at Quinnipiac, it's like, a lot of them are motivated to come to the games. Like you said, like a rugby team, back-to-back national titles. Volleyball team and soccer both were in the MAC championship game last year. Like you said, soccer's always towards the top. Field hockey team just moved to the Big East. So it's like these teams are producing and they are being successful, but I think this is just something that is a societal problem and not a Quinnipiac problem.
Now it's time for our final roars. Dylan, you're up first.
It's one of the best times of the year. Fall's upon us, the leaves are changing, and Quinnipiac's fall sports teams are in the heart of conference play. Now, these upcoming games have crucial implications regarding teams' respective conference tournaments. Every game from this point forward is pivotal, and Quinnipiac should be excited about that, especially with the new stadium complexes. But there's just one thing missing: the fans. The new fields are gorgeous, they're state-of-the-art, and they are top-tier Division I facilities. But without a big fan base, does it really give the Bobcats a home field advantage? The student athletes have everything necessary to win the big games this month, and they've seen the support with the new facilities. Now they just need to hear it.
College basketball season is finally back. The Quinnipiac men's and women's basketball team practices began yesterday, and it's finally hoops time in Hamden. The women's basketball team returns almost every player from a team that won the MAC regular season and conference tournament title. Sure, they lost Adley Martucci, Morgan Mans, two of the program's most decorated players, but the Bobcats returned Aaron McClure, Jen Fay, and Paula Strautmane, three players who should definitely have all-conference caliber seasons. Now you throw in seniors Carly Fabry and Sarah Schuin. You have a Bobcats team who is primed and ready to repeat as MAC champions and definitely make another deep run in the NCAA tournament. One thing's for certain, with this roster, anything less than a return to the NCAA tournament would be a huge disappointment for the Bobcats.
With the women's ice hockey team starting its season 1-1 against the Maine Black Bears, let's flash back to last year's season. The Bobcats have lost some key players from a year ago, including their starting goalie, Sydney Rossman, defenders Darren Baumgart and Emma Wood. And forward Emma Wood this season challenged absolutely. Quinnipiac is so young and is ranked 9th in the latest USCHO.com poll. Only 8 teams make the NCAA tournament, which means the Bobcats are already on the outside looking in. Yes, I know it's so early, but they lost so much from a team that didn't even make the ECAC semifinals, let alone the NCAA tournament. Mark my words, this is going to be one of the Bobcats' most challenging seasons in recent memory. All right, that's all we have time for. Thanks for joining us in Studio 125. Next show is same time, same place. Don't forget to follow us on Twitter at QBSSN and at Q30 Sports. And check out our websites at theqbsn.com and q30tv.com. For Dylan Fearon and Aaron Robinson, I'm Maya Fagum. Have a great night.